Now we're going to put it all back together again. Okay, so we're going to start putting the gun back together. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my axe relay and I'm going to slide it onto the rail on the bottom of the grip frame, bring it up against the frame, and then tighten down the screws from the side. Now tightening these screws should lock the regulator right up tight against the frame. If it doesn't lock up tight against the frame, then the two screws inside need to be adjusted down slightly before you do the two screws from the side of the gun. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom of the gas transfer tube. Now make sure that there is the O-ring on the tip of that. We're going to put it inside and we're going to simply finger tighten it down. And it's hard to do that and for me to keep it visible on the camera, so I'm just going to hold it, tighten it down. Okay, that's nice and tight, solid inside the grip frame. Okay, now we're going to build up the body, and the first thing we do when we get the body is we check that the manifold seal is in correctly. We check that we have the little white check valve in the middle of the holes, in the middle of the 3 holes, and then we're good. Then we're going to take our sensor board, and with the micro switch towards the rear, we're going to line that up with the holes, drop it into place, make sure it sits down nicely into the pocket of the gun. Then we're going to take the locking system that allows that quick removal bolt, put it up through and into place in the back of the manifold plate. And then the manifold plate is simply going to drop on top of the body of the gun. We check we've still got our ball bearing in, we check everything's sitting down nice and flush, and then we're going to go through and tighten all of these screws. Now the first thing to do is run them all down snug but not tighten. Okay, then starting in the middle, again just use the short end of the Allen key, tighten them down so that they are nice and finger tight. And just go back and check the first one. It's all good. There we are. Next we're going to take our solenoid, and that will simply screw into the location the front of the manifold plate. Tighten that down nicely and finger tight. We're going to bring the wire around, line it up with a little socket, and then I like to use an Allen key. Just push it down, make sure that it locates properly into the circuit board. It's a good idea to put a little piece of tape on those wires just to keep them in nice and tight for when you're assembling them, and then check that your micro switch is all good there. Okay, now we're going to take the top part of the gas transfer tube with the lockout piston on the top. That is going to fit into the hole and just tighten down nice and tight, finger tight. Okay, now we're going to take the grip frame. Now I like to pull and hold the trigger when we assemble it to make sure that the trigger doesn't flop forwards and get in the way of assembly. So hold the trigger, line up the gas transfer tube, the back of the gun, and remember the obvious mistake is not putting in the quick release button. So what we need to do is go over here. I did that on purpose, honest. Grab the quick release button and the spring, these two little pieces, and fit those into the frame. Now be careful as you do this because you don't want them springing up and out of place. Put a little bit of tension on them. Check that they're not jumping out. I'm trying to show you in front of the camera without making it jump out. Make sure they're in place before you put the frame up against the gun. Alright, so now I'm going to hold the trigger, slide the two together, and it should all come together nice and smoothly, no major gaps. Put it in front of the camera. Nice and smoothly, no major gaps here, and that means that everything is lined up properly and we should be good. Okay, now we have two screws that hold the frame into place, and these are identical. It doesn't matter which one you put in the front and which one you put in the back. So we drop both of those in, tighten them down. Okay, make sure that they are nice, snug and tight. That all feels good. I'm going to check the button release system on the back, put my bolt guide in. Make sure that it allows the ball bearing to drop so that the bolt guide can turn, lock into place. That is all good. Now I'm going to take my circuit board, put it into the foregrip, drop it down into the foregrip from the top. I like to turn it sideways, take the battery plug, snap it into the board location. Okay, and then we bring the circuit board down. It's a little bit fiddly, but we've got to line it up so that the LED comes through the LED hole and the button comes through the button hole, and then we're going to have that screw location at the top. Drop the screw in, and then we just tighten down that screw, making sure that the switch and the LED are nicely centered in their holes. Oh, that's all good. Take our battery, connect it onto the circuit board, put it down nice snugly into the recess, put the wires tucked out away. Now we have the screw, which is retained in the door plate so it doesn't fall out, so you can't lose it. We put the plate into the side, and then we tighten down that side screw as well. Tighten it nice and tight and snug. Okay, then we're going to slide this onto the front of the gun, hold it up tight against the top of the gun, and then tighten down those two Allen keys on the front. I like to take these little Allen keys on the front out, put a little blue Loctite on them so that they don't ever come loose, and then tighten them back up. Okay, so that should be nice and snug, tight on the front of the gun. And then very simply, we're going to put our grips back on, line them up with the hole, and we have those 4 screws. Tighten down on that one. Tighten down the second one. Okay, and then this is the last screw. And there we go, the axe is fully assembled. If you want to check that your gun is working properly, pull, hold the trigger, push the button so it goes from green to red. Hear the solenoid clicking, everything's good. That's with the eyes turned off, and then we'd go turn the gun off, turn the gun on. No gas in the gun won't fire. Put a finger in the breech, we hear the solenoid clicking, so everything on the gun is working just as it should. Okay, that's all you need to know about the axe.